Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to OSRBC Author Chats. We are so happy to be welcoming back Sophie Jordan this evening. A lot has happened since she sat down with us in 2022, but what hasn't changed is that she is still a New York Times and USA Today bestseller and an amazingly talented author who writes across multiple genres with huge fan followings and all. She is with us tonight to talk with us about the first book in the newest Romantasy series, A Fire in the Sky. May I present to you the wonderful Sophie Jordan. Welcome, Sophie. And this is the gorgeous book with the gorgeous.
Yay.
And
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I thought I'd show y'all because I got this in the mail. So it's been a really busy month because I was in the UK, and then I went to Connecticut, dropped my son off at a camp, and while he was in that camp, I stayed with Diana Quincy for the week, and we had like a write-in. But during that time, I got the paperback edition for A Fire in the Sky. So pretty.
oh,
Yeah, it's very metallic-y. It's very pretty. Metallic-y, that's a word, right?
Yes.
yes.
And it does have like purple sprayed. I don't know. I like that it's like the same but different, right? A
No, it's
different
very pretty.
a different look. I love it. And then, okay, so that I got in the mail before I left for the UK. I was home 2 days, went back to Connecticut. So it's been crazy. It's so great to be home sleeping in my own bed. And I love y'all so much. I'm so real with y'all. I didn't even do my hair or makeup. I just put on a little lip gloss. So that was it. You
Oh,
get the real me all day today. I'll tell y'all what I've been doing today too. But last night, look what I got. I can't believe that I got the finished copy so early. It feels a little early. I think they like to really head start things a little bit on the hardcover. As far as production goes, they seem to plan really early. Um, Maybe just a little bit, it takes a little bit longer in production. Let me see. So, we have the sprayed edge,
Ooh.
which I love that they kind of inverse, they like flipped it, right? With the fire in the sky. It has a lot of blue. It has a lot of the blue. So, we weren't going to do blue again, but made sure it still had this kind of sunset orange. Um, my husband's not home. So, although this is being recorded, whenever I noticed when I met him like 20 something years ago, he was one of those people that could never find like Waldo in the pictures. Yeah, he just always had a hard time. Like that's just not the way his brain worked, where he'd pick out like you could have a hidden picture within a picture. Those pictures that I'm talking about? He could never his mind I was like, you don't see the whatever inside that picture. And he'd be like, no, I don't see it. Y'all, he stared at the when I pulled up the art for this, he stared at it for a super long time. And then he was like, wait, that's the shape of a girl with hair. Like, guys, it was like 48 hours before he noticed it. And then I was like, yeah, babe, there. And inside is the mountain. I mean, I just love it. I really love it. I love the one dragon there over the crags, the shape of the girl on the mountain, the blue, and then the popping embers. Okay, I didn't mean to devote 5 minutes talking about covers and cover art, but yes, the final deluxe edition, U.S. deluxe edition is here.
It's gorgeous. It's
it's gorgeous.
really,
Very excited.
I love
It
it.
must make its way to my shelf at some
I know
point.
I'm actually collecting these and I don't collect very many these days, but these I am.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because when I was in the UK, I did meet with the UK team, and they're doing the opposite, right? If some of y'all saw online, the A Fire in the Sky had more of an orange. This time they have the blue. Like so they're like, yeah. So it's kind of keeps it different. And then, okay, but let's talk A Fire in the Sky. And then maybe I'll tell you what I've been trying to work on amid all the travel. Today I got back into it. I went to PJ's Coffee today and I sat down and I worked when I was with Diana. I'll tell y'all about that. I haven't really talked about that online at all. And people have been messaging me like, so what's happening after A Fire in the Sky and A Scar in the Bone? I'm like, well,
We definitely were planning on asking questions, so I'm glad you're willing to talk about it.
I am
So,
willing. Hit me with everything.
all
I'm here.
right. For anyone who's new here this evening, we have Megan. Megan, wave your hand. Acting as our moderator in the chat panel. We're going to ask everyone keep themselves on mute throughout the evening to aid in our recording quality. And so that if you have questions, submit them in the chat panel. We're going to check in with Megan throughout the night and have her ask your questions to Sophie. So with that, let's get started. Instead of our normal icebreaker questions, because we've asked Sophie those in the past, we've got a couple of other fun things we're going to start, and we want to revisit with you while people are still joining and getting settled in before we start talking about Fire in the Sky. And so I'm going to hand it over to Ozma to ask that first question.
Okay. So back in 2022, you were on a big true crime kick. Are you still on it? And if so, what are you enjoying right now in the genre? If not, what is filling the void for you these days?
Okay. Oh my God. I still really enjoy true crime and I really enjoy thrillers. And it would, if I wasn't writing romantasy, I honestly would want to be writing a thriller like that. I love them so much, but it's one of those things that sometimes once you start writing it, you become, I mean, you're not the fan as much anymore because you're the worker bee in it. So I don't know if it would like lose, thrillers would lose some of that magic for me. I mean, if there's a thriller that hits like any of the streaming platforms that everyone's talking about, rest assured I've watched it still. I think I finished. I think, of course, I watched the Hulu one with the woman that disappeared for the cruise ship. What was the one? I just all of them, all of them. Oh, guys, related to this. When I was in London, I did a Jack the Ripper tour that was all about the women. Like it, and they had like, we're not even going to talk. We're not even speculating about them. We're going to talk about the victims. And it was the most fascinating tour so they walked us through the sites and we talked about the five women. And it was like, it really like opened my eyes to the whole, of course, Victorian England, the patriarchy at the time, that this assumption that all of them were sex workers, that I mean, everything that we've ever been taught, big shock in history was a lie about these women. Like it was amazing. If anybody ever takes a trip to London, that was a very fascinating tour, walk. It was the best tour I did the whole time I was over there. And I think that's what I'm not, when it comes to thrillers and true crime, I am always interested in the people that it happened to. I think that's why I want to, thriller is grounding you in the person who's surviving it, right? Hopefully surviving it, because thrillers can go any which way. I finished not too long ago Amy Suntera's Listen. I think it's called Listen for the Lie. Has anyone heard of that one? Familiar with that one? It's of course been optioned. I think maybe an Apple series. I don't remember. So Listen for the Lie was great, and she was someone who wrote YA. We had the same editor when I wrote Firelight. She was also writing for our same editor at Harper Teen. So, um, what else? What else? So, am I still obsessed with true crime? Yes. Did I take it out of my bio because suddenly I was getting tagged on Amazon? Just I think because I had it in my bio, like books I wrote were being like tagged as reality or true crime. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have that in my bio. Maybe it's a little misleading because I write romance, heavily, mostly romance, right? So, yeah, I did take out that. And I mean, for me, it all storytelling feels so interwoven. Um, suspense should be on every page, no matter what you're reading. Suspense is the thing that keeps you turning the pages, waiting to see what's coming next, even in a romance novel, right? The bated breath, the like, how are you going to end the scene? How are you going to end this chapter? What is keeping the reader going? in writing my current book, which we'll get to, like the first half of the book, I'm like, I have to make sure I'm building in the anticipation of what next. It might feel like what keeps the readers there, even when it feels like maybe the characters are in this lull, is this, something's coming because you've planted the seeds, the anticipation, the foreshadowing, the suspense. Yeah. So just rambling on, guys. I'm rambling on. So yeah.
We will let
Suspense.
you because it's interesting.
Well,
So,
I think a lot of you, I know some of you are also aspiring writers, right? You get it. Or at least even if you're not, you're such a, y'all are such readers that understanding craft is just intrinsic. Like, how can y'all watch a TV show even, right? Like, you're just like taking it apart and thinking about it. Whether it's, Diana, Quincy, and I binged watched We Were Liars, the Prime show, while we were together that week. We did 2 episodes a night and finished the whole series. And of course, all we did was talk about it the whole time. We can't just watch a show like normal people, right?
correct. Correct.
Yeah. Even Gilded Age, I'm like, I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
All right. So, if you could spend a day in real life with one of your characters, who would it be and why?
Gosh, it's so interesting a question. Um, it might be the character that I don't have as developed because the characters I have so developed I know so well, right?
Mhm.
It's in a fire in the sky. I know Fell, I know Tamsin, I know Stig, I know those characters really well. It might be a character I'm a little more intrigued by that I haven't fully fleshed out yet. Um, Yeah. So maybe I'm trying to think. I don't want to give away something that I'm like, wait, is that in a Scar in the Bone or was that in a Fire in the Sky? Fire in the Sky, the witch. She's interesting. I'd like to know, and these are the characters that are a little vague in my mind. Uh, so I would spend the day with them to explore that more. But of course, it's those vague characters I explore that suddenly, oh, they're no longer secondary characters. They're the next book. So um, yeah, I'll say that.
So, what's a good book that you've read in the last year that you would tell everyone to put on their TBR if they haven't already read it?
Okay, because I read pretty voraciously. I usually have a book I'm reading. I usually have a book like on audio. I'm referring to my app right now to see because there's so many. And again, there's romance I'm reading. There's romance. There's thrillers. Um, but let me see. Of course, if you haven't read these summer storms yet, I hope you would. And by Sarah McLean. It's really good, and it's a wonderful audio because I am obsessed with any audio by Julia Whalen. I think she's an experience. When you listen to an audio by Julia Whalen, you are having an experience. So when Sarah said, "Hey, I got Julia Whalen. I scored Julia Whalen," I was like, "That's amazing, so amazing." All right, I'm trying to look what other book. Um, Diana Quincy, of course, has her first I don't thriller coming out, which I have read in various reincarnations. So H1 was a great experience. Like this one's great. This one's great too. Um, so that book, I'm not sure she's announced the title of it yet. So that book will be out next year. And as far as I'm starting Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. Have any of y'all read that one? Because I was in the UK, in Scotland, right? So I had to. I had to. I think she's really great. She's really fun. I really enjoyed Lights Out. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's such a dark romance," and I'm like, it feels very palatable to me, though. Honestly, I have no problem with a something labeled a dark romance if the hero or heroine doing the bad thing is doing it to people that totally deserve it. I mean, you know, is it it's justifiable then, right? They have it coming. I don't have a problem with that. That's fiction, right? Wait, speaking from fiction, like Yeah, yeah. I enjoyed. So thinking of books I've read this year, I really enjoyed Lights Out. I really enjoyed These Summer Storms. Diana Quincy's got, oh, her new historical coming out, her historical girlies, is like a persuasion retelling. It was really good. So good. Oh, and then there's that new anthology coming out that a bunch of authors are in, historical ladies in waiting. See, I obviously I will always like reach for historical romances. They're getting less and less available. And Joanna Shupe has a new one coming. Uh, and then my love of thrillers and really my love of dark romance right now and paranormals. Happy to see. I read the parent and for a totally different spectrum, right? Like here, I love like a darker, but I also loved that one by the series by Jenna Levine, those vampire books. My Vampire's a Roommate. I thought it was adorable. Thought that was an adorable book. I'm really interested too to hear what you are liking right now. Like, what is it, you know, what is it in the market that is spiking your fancy these days? Is it the dark romance, the paranormal, the romantic comedy, historicals? I mean, I've been hearing things about horror romance too, right? I saw Katie Roberts announce she's working on a horror romance.
I'm not sure how I feel about that one. But I am really kind of like, I'm gonna be honest, if I can't read it in 1 or 2 nights,
You know.
it hasn't been happening lately. Um,
Hmm.
uh,
We go through those slumps though. We really
yeah,
do.
and that's the problem lately. So it's not a reflection of anything else. And I find that I'm going back to reading old favorites a lot more because
That's
I can
okay.
get through them fast.
I think it's the same as a comfort watch as a comfort read.
Yes.
And I saw like something, I don't know, it's like Publity or something putting out like people who rewatch the same shows are just highly empathetic people and they know, they feel a lot and they know what they want. So they reach for that comfort. And I'm like, that's the same thing as, we all have that book we've read 4 or 5 times
Yeah.
that just did something for us. And then sometimes when you read a really amazing book, you fall into a rut after, right? That
Yes.
happens too because you're like,
Um,
oh, that was an amazing experience, and you keep wanting to recreate it.
I,
but
I think it's also moods. Like for me, I'm a mood reader, so I read everything. But
Hmm.
like, I am really I read the upcoming Shelley Lawrence To Kill a Badger, and I was always recommend Honey Badgers because everybody knows I love the Honey Badgers because they're crazy. I like shifter books.
Hmm.
And for horror romance, actually, I read one that's coming out soon by Callan Barron, Make Me a Monster.
Oh, tell me that. I love the title alone.
It is. It's like it's it's about like the dead don't stay dead and like there's somebody like this who like about her life and like she's kind of cut up in this stuff and it's really really good. It's really really good.
yeah,
I
And
love.
I'm not a big horror person generally, but I found
Yeah,
it very fascinating to read.
yeah.
Make Me a Monster. It's a good title. I like it. Um, I mean, when you think back to the days where it was just paranormal romance, and now romantasy is an interesting thing because I'm seeing people call romantasy things that are, historical vibe, contemporary vibe, paranormal, not paranormal, a fantasy world, a contemporary world. It's sort of just this label that they apply to everything now that is dealing with anything paranormal or otherworldly, right? Anything. We're just going to call it romantasy.
Yeah. I think
And,
that's what I
yeah,
feel too. I feel like it's
yeah,
not fantasy per se. I feel like it's anything in outside of the contemporary world almost.
right, right. Oh,
So
Jess, I loved Earl Crush.
yeah, I
I
think that's maybe the fa my favorite thing I've read this year, to be truthful.
yeah,
Um,
I mean, writing a Fire in the Sky for me was a way to have a historical vibe. You know, I came from historicals, but I had a thing for medievals. I've always had a thing for medievals long ago. If any of y'all have heard Sarah McLean on Fated Maids say, you know, Sophie Jordan's the one who coined mafia books. To me are medievals 100%. That's what a mafia book is. A mafia book deals with, you know, this really like kind of like the same vibe of like a guy in charge of this world and rival worlds. And I'm like, geez, sounds like a medieval Scottish, you know, romance or something, right? These warring clans. And then maybe you abduct your enemy's daughter, and, you know, and then you're going to do it to punish them. But hey, you end up marrying her. You know, comes more than the woman you just wanted to like, you know, degrade and get back at your enemy. You fell in love with her. Like, oh my gosh, mafia books are medieval stories, you know. And then when my editor said, hey, you wrote dragons once upon a time when you wrote, you know, my YA Firelight trilogy. Have you thought about writing dragons again? And I was like, all the time, all the time. I thought I knew the origin story for Firelight when it was a very medieval old world. And I was like, gee, it's a way to write dragons again, but also write the medieval romance I always wanted to write. There's a way authors can listen to what readers want, listen to what an editor wants, and still write what they want to write. At least that's how I've tried to manipulate and navigate this world. Serving what I want to write. And trust me, the writer who's writing what gives them the greatest kicks and joys is the book that readers end up loving more, right? You know that. You know that they're really writing to their id. It comes through on the pages when they love it.
So you segued right into the next question. So I'm going to go ahead and just ask it and we'll parlay off of it here. So it's a little bit longer because it's several questions submitted into us on the theme, and we wanted to try to capture as much of it in one swoop as possible. But A Fire and Sky is set as the prequel for Firelight's YA series, which you finished the publication back in 2012. Um,
Right.
had you been stewing on the story since then? If so, why this moment for launching it into the world? And was the idea for the series something you proposed, or was it suggested from your publishing and agents team?
Okay. This is the inside scoop, guys. Okay. So I wrote the Firelight trilogy in 2012. I enjoyed writing those books. They definitely had a following, but at the time, when I finished the trilogy, the last book in the trilogy, YA publishing was moving away from 3 and 4 books because what they were figuring out was they could only publish one a year, right? And then your 14, 15-year-old girl who read the first book, you know, by the time the third book comes out, they've changed so much and moved on. Maybe they were starting college and had boyfriends and different interests. It was really hard to keep that reader through that period of time in their life.
Mhm.
So they were buying more duologies started happening, single books. So when I was like, hey, I could write more, do a fourth book, they were like, no, just start over with something new. I sold a duology. I moved on, sold a duology. But in my mind, I always thought I could write more dragon books. And when you sit down, Firelight was a YA paranormal teen romance. So whenever you build a paranormal world, you have your story Bible, your world that you create. Maybe you don't incorporate all the elements, but you know them, you know the rules of the world. So in my mind, I knew like the origin, how dragons came about, how my teenagers today were now shape-shifting dragons. I knew how that happened. And it originated in, you know, like a lore I developed from a millennia ago. I didn't even necessarily incorporate all the rules into the book, but I knew them. I had them kind of written down. So I had that waiting. But honestly, when I finished the Firelight trilogy, what I wanted to do, if anybody's read the Firelight trilogy, I had a character named Cassian. And I was like, and it was a love triangle. He was the one that I'm telling you, my readership was 50-50 split on. And I really, really, really wanted to write a story for Cassian and make it a little more like adult because he was already 18 by the time it was done, he might have been 19. I was like, oh, I can fast forward a few years and it'd be, he's older. It might be noodle. Again, noodle wasn't even a phrase. Like it wasn't even a word or a concept. But I was like, oh, age him up a little bit. And they were like, no. And I toyed with writing it and putting it up myself, but I just didn't because I get caught up in writing everything else I was contracted for. So it never happened. Even though I was like, oh, it'd be fun to go back and write dragons or even go back and write Cassian story. So then fast forward many, many years, I pitched an idea to my editor and she wasn't that keen on it. So I'm fortunate that it's an editor I've been working with since 2000 and I'm getting the year right, 2006. And she said, what about dragons? She brought it up. She was like, what about dragons? And I think the conversation was like a month after Fourth Wing came out. She was like, you wrote dragons, you had a following. And I was like, yeah, I did. She's like, have you thought about doing anything in adult romance with dragons? And I was like, well, yeah, I did. Like 10 years ago, I thought about it. I can definitely still do that. So I remember she asked, I didn't even actually acknowledge her. I didn't even reply. The email came through my agent. I didn't even acknowledge it. I didn't even reply to her. My agent was like, do you want to? And I was like, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to see how it flows. So I sat down and I'm telling you, 4 weeks later, I had 150 pages, like in a month. It just like the first 150 pages, I knew the scene I was writing to in the fire in the sky. I knew how it was. I knew from the minute I knew the first sentence was, it was a good day for a whipping. I knew immediately she was the whipping girl. I knew he was going to come to the castle and he was going to wanted to claim a bride. They trick him. They give him her. I knew the betting ceremony where he didn't know it was her he was betting. I knew all of that. So it was just this like frenzied rush. I just wrote it in a whirlwind, turned it into my agent. She took it to my editor and they bought it instantly. So, and then and it was so cool because I had a call with her then that after they bought it, it was very like, she'd read the first 150 pages. So she gave me a lot of input about like what she thought about those pages and where it could go next for the rest of the book. So, it was sort of like getting revision notes before the book was over, which was really cool. I think it helped me as a writer make the book better, knowing it 1/3 through the book where I was going already. So, but it was funny. Back to the point when she said, what about dragons? For a second, for a heartbeat, I was like, this is my time. I could write Cassian's book. And I remember my agent being a little like hesitating, like, really? Like, and I was like, yeah, maybe. And then I thought, and I was like, maybe I need to let go and do something a little fresh, not cling so hard. I'm already taking from the world of Firelight and the dragons. Do I really need to take from a character from 12 years ago?
Yes.
Who said yes? Someone's like, do it.
Morgan. Morgan says yes.
You're like, yes, do it. So I thought about yeah, maybe. Who knows? You sit down to write a book, and I sat down to write A Scar in the Bone, and halfway through A Scar in the Bone, I'll show it off. Not to spoil anything with it. Halfway through A Scar in the Bone, I had a change of heart, and I changed a significant element of the plot. So sometimes you sit down and you think you're going to do something, and it just doesn't happen. Sometimes even before I did it, I was like, should it be Cassian? No, not. And I am kind of glad. I'm glad I came up with Tamsin. I'm glad I came up with Fell. They appeared just like I knew how they were going to meet and who they were. Their names appeared in my mind so quickly, so easily. That doesn't always happen like that. And when you sit down and write a book, sometimes coming up with the idea for a book is like a slow, birth. But this was just like someone gave me a shot of Pitocin and it came out,
So kind of still on the Fire in the Sky concerning the special edition, we
Yes.
were wondering who came up with the idea for this wonderful flip that we got to do?
So I was told my editor came up with it, and the only place anyone's really seen it done is maybe in some graphic novels. It really hasn't been done. I've heard it's starting to happen a little bit more. Someone else saw that in a romantasy novel or a fantasy novel, but it was her idea, which was funny because everyone was like sharing it and showing it, and it is a little spoilery when you do that, but it was just too sweet to resist, I think. So when people read A Fire in the Sky and they're like, I so saw that coming, I'm like, well, sometimes a writer, we put these twists in that it's not necessarily meant to be super difficult to guess, especially if there's slip art. But even so, I was like, and I guess I can speak freely about A Fire in the Sky since it's okay, I'm not worried about spoilers.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Before we go there, all right, everyone, from this point on, we're going to be talking about the big spoilers in the book. So this is your warning before we go forward.
Yes, it's fine.
The next question was, you're leading right into where the next question was, and we put that preface right at the beginning of that question. So we're going to insert it right here because I know there are a couple people who haven't read the book. So before we go forward, this is your chance. Exit now if you don't want to know the big giant plot twists.
Or mute me. Can you mute me? I don't know.
No, we want to talk about it.
We want to talk about it, so.
It was interesting as a writer. Sometimes you hear writers say, I never read reviews. I never listen. I don't want to. I don't have a problem skimming kind of reviews. And the reason I do it is because when I write a book like this that did have twists and spoilers, I am interested from a craft perspective to realize people's, how they received it. And so it was funny because some people were like, well, I figured it out. And I'm like, well, that's okay. And it was kind of okay for you to figure it out. Flip art withstanding, you should have known there was something different going on. Obviously something different about Tamsin. So, but it was interesting. Some people weren't sure what that thing was, which seems very valid. Like dragon, was it something dragon related? Was it something witch related? Either one of those things could have been true. Either one of those things could have made for an interesting story. But the end twist was the one I hope was a little unexpected. But even still, some people, because of the betting scene, thought there was something going on there with Belle, and that's okay too. I don't mind putting little carrots in there for people to try to figure things out. Sometimes I'll read a thriller and I'm like, wow, that was a huge twist. And good job, but also the writer did not write it for you to guess it, right? You know what I mean? Like sometimes there was no carrots given. There was no, like, what do you call it? Not carrot, other than carrots.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, but where they dropped I forget. Sometimes they don't do it. Thank you. I mean, sometimes they don't do it at all because Frida McFadden, who's like the thriller queen, she's like the Nora Roberts of thrillers. Like Nora was of romance. That's how I'm coming to think of Frida McFadden. She's just steadily putting out thrillers consistently. And the only thing expected is that there will be an unexpected ending. And sometimes they make sense. Oh, when you read the twist at the end, but also there was no hint given at all. Like the only way to predict a Frida McFadden novel at the end now is to predict what possibly couldn't be. Like no crumbs, no hints, no foreshadowing. What could the end be? There, then you'll guess it. And then you're like, okay, makes sense. But so I set up twists. I'm trying to think, is it just the two major twists? If you figured out the first one through the flip art, I'm sorry, it was just an artistic decision,
I mean,
we were talking about the flip art, and we honestly didn't realize it as we were reading because we just saw like little pictures, and then halfway through, you're like, wait a second, the pictures are changing.
And
that's what's cool, right? If you don't get if things don't get ruined, because sometimes being online, it's great. The community it provides us, book talk and the book community through Facebook and Instagram is wonderful. But at the same time, you'll fall into those reveals all the time.
Yeah. And I mean, full transparency here. I bought the book as a pre-order. It sat beautifully on my shelf as a TBR for a while,
Mhm.
and I ended up reading it in so I didn't see until like I was prepping to talk about it, and then I pulled it off the shelf, and then I was looking, I was like, oh, there's these pretty pictures, and then I was like, wait, the pictures are changing. And I was like, oh, then I like started thinking about it. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, this goes with the story that I just read. Oh,
I
yeah,
love that.
because like, I mean, so yeah, I mean, and the irony is I sat on the beach and read the book in and my cousin was asking me about like, what are you reading? And I was like, well, it's a dragon book, but I'm over halfway through and I haven't come across the dragon. And then like 4 pages later, dragon. I was like, well, now I
Yeah.
understand my dragon book.
And
So
that was spectacular. I have to
it
tell you, like I
was
opened that like, and you wake up as the like that was a spectacular way to introduce it.
yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, now I
I
get
think
it.
it's fabulous if you can read a book, not know, right? Go into it like that with the total, like it's a totally, virgin
Yeah,
experience. Nothing's been spoiled because you've been online. I mean, every once in a while, like so rarely, but isn't it amazing when you pick up a book when you don't even know what it's about? Just like someone's like, oh, read this. So you read it and you don't even know what it's about and you can go into it totally blind. I love that. I love that sensation. I mean, have y'all, in relating that, connecting that to films, have y'all ever watched a trailer for a movie or film and afterwards go, well, I don't even need to watch the film or the movie now? Like, I feel like it gave away everything?
yeah. Um, but
It's
yeah,
nice to be surprised.
I was very excited. I mean, it is very rare that I pick up one of your books completely blind, and I don't know how I managed to
You did it.
to do
Yay.
it this time. I
Especially since we've been
had a,
telling you
like
to read this
a
for a
crazy
year.
time in my life that like literally I was able to like be like, oh, this sounds fun, and just bloop, and then okay, I'm going to sit and read it now. But it was
I feel
delightful, and I
like
enjoyed it.
people who have been reading romance, if y'all all came from the old school group, I'm imagining you've grown up reading a lot of the romance novels I have. And if you read this book, you're like, yeah, this is a romance author wrote this book. you
Yeah,
know, there's a lot of but it's been such an interesting experience for me because I feel like I can tell if I read a review, I can tell if someone's reading it because they're coming in for the fantasy or they're coming in for the romance. Expectations are totally different. And that's fascinating for me. I'm like, I don't know. If you're only there for the fantasy, you may not be in for this, right? But if you're there for romance or romance and fantasy, I think you're going to be pleased.
so I think you probably
Wedding scenes, maybe?
know. Well, it sounds like
Yep.
you pretty much always knew that you were going to have shifters. And it sounds like you pretty much from the beginning knew how you wanted this story to go and end. Or did you know the ending when you started? It's like,
Um,
at what point did you know the end of this book?
okay, so this is like when I wrote the ending, what that knows. I was at almost 100,000 words, and I thought I was going to write a lot more, which granted with a romantasy, they can be 200,000 words. They're so long. But I was like, I don't think, my typical romance novels at 75,000 words. This book ended at like 98,000 when I was done through copy editing. It ended about 98,000 words. So it is the longest novel I've to date that I'd ever written. And then the book comes out, the hardcover. If you hold it up, you're like, this is not a long book.
No.
Well, it's hardcover, so it's bigger. They fit way more words on the page. If they had put this book in old school mass market, it would have been a really honking book. So I was like, I don't really want to go over 100,000 words. I feel like I'm hoping to get a lot of my romance readers follow it, which they're totally on board for a longer book. But now when I saw the hardcover come out and the cost of paper is a real thing these days, that the pages are quite thin too. They're almost you can almost see to the other side. So the pages are really thin. The books look really small. And it's interesting because the book in the UK edition looks bigger because the pages are a little thicker. But like I did it. So A Scar in the Bone, so A Scar in the Bone. So where A Fire in the Sky was about 98,000 pages, A Scar in the Bone is 105. It still doesn't look nearly as long. So I am kind of conscious to what I'm writing towards. I'm like, okay, I'm shooting for 100,000 words. I think I have maybe, I'm, I'm going to stop at this point, which I'm hesitating to say because it's not where I stopped. Okay. That's why. So I'm like, here's the black moment right here. And I'm going to write a couple more scenes and stop here. So what I ended up doing was writing almost right to the black point. Therefore, the very violent cliffhanger, the sudden cliffhanger I've left y'all on was a little more sudden. But, you know, I have the luxury of doing that because I knew it was a sequel. Like, and that was another thing when I sent when I wrote those first 150 pages in that like fever dream, and I sent it to my editor, and they bought it, and then we had the call. I said, I know how this book's going to end. So book two, because they bought two books. I said, book two, is the book two, what are you thinking for book two? Because that's important when you're writing book one that I said, so you thinking for book two, it'll be a secondary character? And she was like, no, it's these characters. It's a sequel. It's still going. And I was like, oh. And honestly, I'm so grateful now for that because there's no way I could have wrapped this book up in one. I had this idea of where it wanted to end, and then I hit 100,000 words, and I'm like, I'm going to end it actually a little sooner than I planned, and that will be in book two. So book ones, when you're writing when there's a sequel, are really kind of easy because you're like, where am I going to end? Am I going to end on this high point or this high point or this high point or that twist or that? Like, there's actually multiple places you can end it. It's just when it comes time to write the end, you're like, there's no cliffhanger here. I got to give you guys a resolution, that's what was tricky.
So there was a little bit of debate in the group about who was the source of the fog when it comes to our couple's magical powers that are being slowly revealed to us, to the readers and them as well. Can you share who is bringing the fog?
It was Fell. It was Fell.
Okay.
Fell was bringing the fog in the bedding ceremony without even realizing it, because he had this natural, he was trying to protect her, shield her, protect them from the eye. So he was actually creating the fog, which, the reader wouldn't know that because they didn't know he was what he was. Fell doesn't even know what he is, right? And so the only one was myself writing it, that it got foggier, and it was a little mystifying to everybody in the room. They're like, where is this fog coming from? And South Pantera is not typically shrouded in fog. The North, the borderlands is, which again relates to Fell unknowingly this whole time. He's, used it in, protection and defense of the borderlands all his life, all his life. So, I liked those little things, sometimes I'm too subtle. It's so funny because a lot of my editorial notes from my editor are asking questions. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm hinting at here, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell the reader. But maybe I'm too vague sometimes. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that some of it was like when I was reading it, I was like, well, I think maybe, but I was a little fixated. I was like, at that point, still, I'm like, oh, obviously we're hitting on fated mates here thing going, because like the blood bond and the pulsing of like the like this, and I was like, I mean, you had me going down a whole nother little path at that point
Well, and
too.
that is something that, like, I mean, she could have blooded with someone else and it would not have been the same, right? It's just
Yeah,
that, he was like her.
yeah.
Um, and that, that bond and the fog and all of that is still at play, in the next book too.
Okay. So, how satisfying was it as a writer to knock Stig down a peg and injure him at the end? And is there any chance he survived?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Um, you know, writing Stig, um, Stig was someone like I was trying to figure out through the whole book still. Who is Stig really? Um, and then I realized, I think we've all known boys like Stig that um, are your friend, maybe a little more than your friend, and, and they're okay and they're good until they're threatened or you don't love them back, like really that toxic masculinity, that, if she had chosen him, everything, he would have been the great guy, but she didn't, and that really showed then who and what he really was, right? But I don't think I knew that about him necessarily until I got closer to the end, how he was going to react. And it's such an interesting thing because after I wrote this, the series Adolescent came out, right? Like how, there are those, the subject of incel, among men, right? Like how they can't handle rejection or denial or refusal or not getting their way. I think he's a little bit of that.
So you had talked a little bit about, Fire in the Sky. It left us with a bit of a cliffhanger, happy together in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but we have a lot of questions about what we might see in A Scar in the Bone. So the first one is, will we see more of Thora in the future?
It was so you will see more and learn more about witches. I'll provide you with that. And she's certainly someone where I was like asking myself, is it Thora and specifically that's so important or who she represents for which kind? And I think I went with that. Like it was a little more important for me to show more about, which kind in this world. So I do that in A Scar on the Bone and in the next book.
So, will her sisters reappear at some point? Because I felt like we spent a good little bit in the beginning of the book developing at least the youngest sister and the fact that she was significant for them to just kind of go off into the ether and never be seen again.
Yeah, there'll be more. You'll learn more about the sisters too. Now I'm so glad that I did that based on the question. Sometimes when you create a big cast, you're not necessarily sure you haven't close if you have not closely plotted book two. I'm not a person who sits down and plots all the books in the series. I usually have just a loose idea of the next book, but I don't sit down and do them. So I think when I wrote the first draft of A Scar in the Bone, I don't think I revisited the sisters at all. And then it definitely was the thing that came about in the second pass. And my editor was really glad too. She was like, "Oh, I'm so glad to find out what happened with the sisters." So there you go.
So we're also interested because we didn't see much of Fell's kingdom in this book, but do we spend more time in it in the next book?
Um, there not too much. There's so much world, right? Like and choosing where to go. And obviously you're going to be, and I think the blurb gives away a lot, right, of A Scar on the Bone, which was a tricky thing. I was kind of curious. I was like, what are we going to do here? Are we going to reveal? Oh, they are. I was like, I kind of submitted some notes and I was like, how much are we going to reveal? Oh, we're just going to reveal a lot. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of it is set in the world, in the Pride, in the world of dragons, which I hope y'all like. Fantasy readers are like, yay! But medieval readers are like, take us back to the Borg. Yeah.
Okay. So, A Scar in the Bone is set to release on October 14th. Are you going to be doing signed copies of the pre-order from Katie Books
I
again?
am. I will be doing so that deluxe edition, this one that has, you know, the foil. But I'm happy with the foils. There's like you can't tell the the sunsetty orange. It also there's a hint of it in the foil of the letters, just like in A Fire in the Sky. There's a hint of blue in the letters that kind of
Mm-hmm.
connects to the. So they, I remember when we did this one, I made sure and asked them, can you have some kind of hint of like the sunsetty orange, since it connects the cover, the lettering, to the sprayed edge. Oh, Trisha will be especially happy about this. You know what I'm going to show, don't you, Trisha? The end papers. So
Oh,
we do have the full map on the end papers. So they
oh.
did the map of the world on the front and back end papers, which I requested Andres. I think it's Aguirre. He's a Spanish artist. He's done a lot of different books. And I asked for him. I mean, they were like, "So, what do you think?" I went back. I originally had asked about the map in A Fire in the Sky, and I think it might have been a little late in the production already. And they were like, "Well, maybe next time." And they just sort of. And I was like, I felt like maybe that's just the thing to say, right? When your kids ask for something, and you say maybe, but you really mean no. But so I just threw it out there. Never hurts to ask. I always am happy to ask for the moon. And if you get it, you get it. So I asked, I said, what about a map this time around? And then I didn't hear anything for a while. And I thought we were already kind of getting a little late sliding into production. And I got the email back, yes to the map. They'll do it for the in papers. And I quickly fired back and I requested Andres. And they said, we'll find out. And then I waited again a little while. And I was like, it's just too late. And then they were like, yes, he agreed. And he signed the contract and he's doing it. And we worked back and forth between Andres. And he was really great because he was like, I want to work with the author. Like, and I don't think it was that. I mean, he could go through the art department at the publishing house, but then it's just such a delay, like to go back. So once they turned it over and agreed, Andres and I just were constantly messaging. And then when it got close to the final steps, we looped in back the publisher. It was great. It was a great experience. I'm really excited about it. If y'all get the deluxe edition, tag him too. He'll love it. He'll repost everything when y'all tag him. So it's so beautiful. I'm thrilled. And he did the two, like he did different. I don't want to spoil the whole book, but here, I'll open it up. Like he did, like I love the orange on the, he did, the two different dragons.
Oh.
He did we worked on the wolf, like how I imagined them to look, not quite like more beast-like, not quite like, they're actually not like a normal wolf, right? We have the Isle of Maru, we have the main Pantera landmass, Acton, the Dark Channel with the monsters in the water, the crags. So it has everything that, was mentioned in book one and the new, like a few new, sites and elements that are in A Scar in the Bone. Look at the little like the sea. Can y'all see it up there? The little, am I pointing at it? The little like sea monster. I love it. The details are great. So yeah, that's available through Katie Budget Books. And look, the onyx necklace he did too.
Oh.
There's a lot of little like nuggets throughout the whole thing you can find.
I love that it's in color too.
Yeah, they were like, it's going to be full color. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are great. So very excited about it.
That's gorgeous.
There we go.
So, Sophie, we're going to pause here and check in with Megan about the questions that I keep seeing piling up in the chat. And Megan, what questions do we have about Fire in the Sky right now before we move to talking about writing in general?
Yeah. So we have a couple. I might do Jess's, and then I'm wondering if we're small enough, maybe at the end we can open it up because
Oh,
some of them
definitely.
I'm not sure just because I'm not familiar with Firelight. So, and I know Trisha has one about narrators.
Okay.
But Jess would like to know what's the best fan reaction or message you've received about Fire in the Sky?
Oh gosh. I mean, I mean, the response has been overwhelming. Like the people, the fun things we're stumbling on and getting tagged by TikTok, or the people who picked it up randomly, like on accident. That actually, like the 28-year-old women who picked up a Fire in the Sky, not realizing till like getting into it and things sticking out. Wait a minute. This is sort of making me think of that book of Firelight I read when I was 12. Like, that is unreal for me that they stumbled on it and found it that way. And then they went back and they looked and they checked their old bookshelf at their mom's house and they found Firelight and they were like, oh my God. Like, just that it blew their mind, right? I loved that 100%. Um, you know, usually the people, YA readers are all ages. I should always, I have plenty who read my Firelight books that were, 30 years old when they read them. Those are the readers that generally followed me, have stayed with me, and know. Like the minute I announced A Fire in the Sky, they were like, I'm here for it because Sophie, I love your, hi Morgan, hi. I love your Firelight books, but it's like those 12-year-olds who read it and kind of forgot and went on and then fell into it. That was just sort of amazing. That was an amazing reaction. Was that one question? Do we have a second one I'm missing answering?
Yeah, we're getting a couple more in. Morgan would like to know if the UK edition will have the map as well.
They don't. And they were kind of like, I think they're going to be using it for promotional purposes. The cover's very similar. They have, except they're doing blue. The font color, the foil on the lettering will be a little different, and they have more embers exploding and popping around the book, which I kind of love. Trisha's asking about a map in the ebook. I'm not sure about that, but I'm going to find out. I don't think so. It's a really good question. When you open up an ebook, sometimes it looks entirely different than what the final print edition looks like. Like the flip art doesn't make it into the ebook because of the, formatting. So maybe I'm going to find out. It seems like it should be able to be in there.
And then Carla would like to know, will any of the other dragon powers that were in Firelight appear in Scar in the Bone, beyond
Yes.
shading and fire?
Yes. Yay! I love it. For those who like the Earth, Jackie, like the what's another one I have? I have of course like the shading and the fire. Oh, and you're the onyx, of course. You're gonna the warrior ones, the foot soldier warrior onyx dragons, and trying to think. I invent a couple new ones? Oh, I referenced some in Firelight. Like I did a whole deep dive going back into the Firelight books, just like making a list, itemizing all my different like skills and talents among the dragons. And there was a few I mentioned, like I mentioned a Clarion dragon, and I never really talked about it much in Firelight. But then I go ahead and I developed it in A Fire in the Sky. So the Clarion are still there, the Visiocryptor. So I definitely had to go back, reread for myself, my own books, and develop those talents. Trying to think if I invented any new ones. I don't think I invented any new ones. I think I had a dozen. I had a pretty good list. Yeah.
Is there a chart by any chance of somewhere where you have the types of dragons and their powers?
That would be a great idea. I'm gonna, I might do that on my website. That would be
Okay.
good. Yeah. I mean, in these romantasy books, they have all kinds of things and glossaries and all kinds of things now. Yeah, maybe I think there is a wiki page for Firelight. I don't know if it's on that page. That would be
Okay.
something to check. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Okay. So that's all the ones that kind of came in right now. So yeah, we can get back to the
Great.
questions.
All right, Ozma, I'm going to hand it back to you then.
Okay, so besides sex, what are the biggest differences between writing YA fantasy and adult fantasy?
Um, yeah, okay. The open door is at the top. I don't think the thing that was in this romantasy is, I had language in there, and that was another thing. Like when I sat down to write, I was like, here, it's an origin story for Firelight. But sometimes I wanted to do something, and I was like, wait, but maybe that wouldn't be okay if this was a millennia ago. I'm making up. Well, and then I just, at a certain point as an author, you're like, fuck it, it's my world. I'm going to write it the way I want to write it. Like if something deviated a little bit, just a little bit from the Firelight, but it was a new book. It was a new series. I did not let rules hold me back from writing the best possible book I could write. Um, it is definitely a more open door. And I enjoy that. Like, again, I had this medieval story in my head for years about like the wrong bride, the bedding scene of the wrong bride, and being able to like take all these things and merge them together. The dragon, a medieval storyline, historical romance, and then also some contemporary vibes if I want them, because why the hell not? It's a fantasy world, right? Where, they're going to say things that sometimes I tried to stick to like a vibe that felt like smoothly authentic. Like this feels kind of like a medieval vibe, but sometimes I was like, this is just the way I want the scene to go. This is the way I want her to react or her to speak. And I just did it.
Yeah. So, do you think your experience as a traditional romance writer has helped you be able to write tighter world building scenes in your fantasy novels? Because you talked about it a minute ago about that your novels are shorter than, a lot of romantasies or fantasies are. And we talked about it as a group, but we talked about it as romance readers that we
Right.
appreciated we were not carrying big honking books and we
Right.
were able to read and enjoy a very, very tightly written book.
We are different readers for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think I have the amount of world building I like in a book, to read. Someone who's not from romance could complain they want more. I'm aware of that. So I just, I write if I will I write to the level that I want, that I'm comfortable to. But I know I could probably slow my pacing down and write more world building and it'd still be fine, which is so wild because as romance readers, we've been trained about pacing and we've been trained about get get characters on the page together, get them doing something, get them, like a lot of the things that, we were trained to do don't necessarily apply in a fantasy novel. So that's kind of interesting. But as readers, you're like me. As romance readers, you're like me. So
Yeah.
uh, the current this book had how many parts? Part 4, part 5?
5.
5. Okay, so the current book I'm working on, it could change because I'm still revising it. Is a 3-part, which is kind of nice because it's like an 3-act play. But I was talking to another writer who writes romance, and I said, Act 1 of the new book I'm writing is the end of Act 1 shifts, like the change of it, which signals the change, the transition in Act 2 is the hero character arrives. And she was like, wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. Like, we don't see the hero for how long? And I'm like, and I said, you know what? I'm turning it in. I'm writing this draft. And if it's going to be a problem, my wise editor is going to say it's a problem. And those words never came out of her mouth. It's just like, it is a different, Romantasy is a little bit of a different vehicle. So, but what I make sure to do, because this is my romance roots, is he may not be there, but you feel him and he's coming and it's going to be like the anticipation of it. That's all I can do, is like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. He's coming and it's going to be intense, building up to the moment.
So before we go back to your upcoming book, your Rocks fans are very insistent on knowing if you see yourself returning to adult contemporary romance in the future.
I will definitely have a definitive answer for that in probably the next 60 days. So I definitely could. Devil's Rock to me, oh, like I was talking about earlier with dark romance, give me a hero that, again, those to me were writing like medievals, like a hero that goes, throw him in a dungeon. He's been in a prison for, a crime that was a crime, but justified, but still a crime. So he went to prison. He went and spent all this time in a dungeon cell. And then when he comes out, he's just like ready, and just all that tension. It's just so fraught when he and the heroine actually meet. I will read those and write those all day long if I could. So yeah, I want to do something in that vein again. And I have some ideas percolating. So it's an interesting time. Like I talk about the dark romance, and dark romance is a phrase that people are talking about, but those books don't feel that dark. I mean, do Devil's Rock, do they feel that dark compared to dark romance? It doesn't really to me.
It doesn't, but I feel like it's a lot of books are categorized now as dark romance. Almost, I
Right.
feel like Morality Chain. I feel like if
Yeah.
anything that's Morality Chain is kind of dark romance,
Right.
but please keep them coming.
I do. And I feel like there's still, because when you pick up a dark romance, sometimes it is truly dark. Sometimes there's been a few that are so dark, right? They push my boundaries. But for the most part, a lot, it's such a wide range of them. There's some that I'm like, oh, that, like I read Lights Out. I'm like, oh, no. He's a hero who is so worried about that he's a serial killer like his father. And I'm like, if you're worried that you're a serial killer like your father, you're probably not like your father, because you're worried about it too much, which tells me you're probably a decent human being, So,
He just has her
yeah,
best interest at heart.
yeah.
He really
I
does.
can read something like that. I'm there for that.
So definitely answer this as much as you want to answer here, but as an author who has been successful in writing in historical genre, do you have thoughts about the announcement of the ending of the mass market paperback format and the state of the genre in publishing in general at the moment?
I mean, it's like what came first. I mean, I know when I started publishing, historical romance was king. It was such a genre. It could not even cross anybody's mind that it would not be viable and and it never occurred to me that it would lose or wane in popularity. And even when it started to happen, I was like, no, 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 no. It's not like, it's not, it feels like its own genre, because technically, right, so historical romance is technically a subgenre of the genre romance. But honestly, it always felt like almost its own genre. It was just here. It was a staple. And so I was a little caught off guard. I started seeing less and less get published. And then the announcement of, the the death knell of mass market, which I don't feel was a publishing decision. I do feel like that was a decision, from retailers and distributors. So I think what's happening is we're at a pivot point where historicals need to figure out what the format will be, trade, hardcover, and what it's going to look like. Because it's so hard, and making it appear, something relevant to young readers where they want to read it. So I think it just needs I think it needs some kind of physical transformation. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And then when it happens, they're going to want it. It's going to like just domino, and it's going to go everywhere. And then hopefully, and then they have all these books, this canon of historical romance they can be like reissuing and putting in, because it's all there waiting. So I think it's interesting. What do you, as readers, how are you feeling about it?
It it makes me sad because it also makes me feel kind of old, but I'm not old, which makes me feel even
Yeah,
weirder
yeah,
because
yeah.
it, I mean, it's one of those things, but I also do realize that because I read so much that
Mm-hmm.
I transitioned probably 15 years ago to reading more of my the things that I read in mass market, I transitioned reading more of it in
Mm-hmm.
just because the volume of it I was reading because
Right.
I
And the quickness in which you could get it, right?
yeah,
Like that.
and it was just because not all of it could live in my house in that format anyway, because it was taking over. But you still have some of it. You still love picking it up. I
Yeah.
still, if I'm going to have a paperback, enjoy that size paperback for tossing in a
Right.
bag. I'm not really, a trade is not my preferred method of reading a
Right.
paperback, which
It's
is
interesting. I feel like historical romance was grabbed so much at the supermarket, at Target, at Walmart. There were
at the
those
airport.
paperbacks, and people at the and
Mhm.
then people grabbed them. And if they're not there, then they're not being bought. But I'm not sure. Um,
It,
I still think there's going to be a lot of authors that are going to be indie pubbing them, and that makes it easy, right? You keep downloading it, but
it's kind of a weird thing. Um,
it is. I miss that I don't have every month. You used to have a choice of like here, like
mhm.
30 books released in historicals between the various houses. I miss that. I miss having so many options to choose from.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, I mean, and I will walk around my house and obviously, like, I've transitioned. What I keep is a lot more hardbacks, what I've kept. But, like, I'll walk through my house and I'll be like, oh, yeah, here's like in this room, like, you know, 10 like mass markets just sitting on a bookshelf here, and here's another 10 over here. Like, so all throughout my house, there's probably 300 just stowed in
Yes.
random places.
And my mom has them like in closets, like in boxes, like just boxes of mass market paperbacks.
Yeah.
Um, it's going to be weird. I thought about this like a couple of weeks ago. I'm downstairs in my husband's office, but I was upstairs in my office, and I was staring at my books on the shelves, and I'm like, someday my grandkids are going to look at those mass markets and not even know what they are, like what the book is, like the format. It's going to be like really weird that, wow, look at these pocket-sized books my grandmother wrote.
Yeah. So,
Because
Maybe
it's
mass
funny.
market will come around. They were just, I mean, I don't know. So, um, I think there's another like story behind it. I feel like YA books were put out in trade in those smaller hardcovers and trade. They were never put out in mass market. So those readers have grown up. They went through the pandemic. There was the big boom during lockdown, and they got turned back on to books. They were the YA readers, they're 20 somethings, and they never held a mass market book in their entire life. They didn't read those when they were 10, 11, 12, 13. They were reading they were reading trades and hardcovers. I just think that's fascinating there's a whole generation of readers under 30 that have never read a mass market book.
And even the books that they read in high school now, the ones that we read, like Catcher in the Rye and all of them, that I just got I had to get from my kid,
Right, right.
they are being published in trade size now. They're
They
not
changed the
being published
format. That's wild.
as mass markets anymore.
That's
So it's like
so,
I ordered for him and I'm like, why is Catcher in the Rye this big? No.
yeah, yeah, yes.
So crazy because like, this are just grabbing one off like what you read, like the, you know, $2 version of like Shakespeare that you read in high school
Right.
was a mass market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also when we were younger, I personally, this is my personal opinion, is that there wasn't really a YA market. So when I went from younger books, I started reading my mother's books.
Exactly.
And I think that because they had the YA, like a generation of kids, that they did not discover historical romance like we did.
Hmm.
That's part of
I mean,
my,
that's how I read. My first historical romance was my mom's and my grandmother. I like filched the books.
hmm, yes, yes,
I mean, and sometimes there'll be a young reader, young, and when I mean young, I mean like a 30-year-old that'll just happen on one and be like, wow, these are great. And when that happens, she has this whole, army of books just waiting for her. She may
yeah.
not find as many that are new though.
I
So
I think it comes also that I'm glad that some of the book conventions are still having historical romance writers because what I realized I had gone to Polycon is when the younger, like the 20s and 30s, when they hear authors talk in person, they seem to be much more willing to like try out their books because they
right.
listen to their personalities and they listen
And when
and
you
they're
hear that, like Diana Quincy talk about her books, and you
yes.
realize, wow, she's
Hmm.
writing something that is relevant, and
Yes.
in historical romance novels are relevant, maybe more
Yes.
than ever, you know?
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. But so to kind of go off now, roll into the next. Your fans have we have October 14th. Scar on the Bone is written down, but is there anything else that they need to have their calendars ready for in the future from you?
I do have, I will be doing a couple tour sites that I'm hearing rumbling. So like stay tuned if I'm near you or close enough to where you want to come and visit me, that would be great. And yeah, I'm writing a third book in the world of A Fire in the Sky. I'm revising it right now. So it's in the same world and it's two different characters, but then you'll see the same thing, the same global concerns that are going on in A Fire in the Sky and Scar on the Bone are still happening in that world. So um, it was kind of they bought two books. So when I proposed a third book, I was kind of like trying to be a little smart about it. Like, well, what if I did a book that is a standalone in the same world? So it's a fresh take to show to, retailers and marketing. And I'm really excited. My vision for the cover, they sent me some artists to choose from and I picked the artists I like. I'm just really excited about the book. Still dealing with the world, with dragons. You'll get a lot more into which kind in that book, what you've found out in A Fire in the Sky and what you're going to find out in A Scar in the Bone. It totally blows up in. I don't even know if I should say the title. I don't know if it's a firm title. We're still like I don't have approval on the title yet, so we'll see. We'll see what the title. I feel like I'll have it soon. I feel like it'll pop up, and you know how it pops up on e-retailers suddenly. I don't even know or have a warning, and I'm like, there it is. There's no cover yet, but there'll be a title, and they're like, there it is. So I'm even curious how it'll pop up. Will it say? I mean, it's not really book three, but it is a Fire in the Sky. It is a Fire in the Sky novel, but it's not technically book three because it could be read independently. Um, I'm excited.
2.5.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh, and they did tell me, so it was supposed to also be like a fall book because I think A Fire in the Sky was September and Scar in the Bones October. I think it's summer, so it's not as long. It's not as far out. It'll be out this summer, next summer. This time next summer.
That is
Yay.
very exciting.
I'm
Very.
excited about it.
All right. So, Megan, do you want to direct traffic if we let people come off mute? And
I can just because I know I've seen some, and we've kind of had a little quite the chat going on. So
okay, do
Yeah,
we
if,
so I
want
don't lose
I see.
track of anything.
Yeah, if you want to like ask me anything, I see stuff popping, but I'm not reading it long. So like I'm not.
Yeah. So if people want to raise hands and or just be respectful of one another, don't talk over
Yeah,
one another.
just
You can take yourself off mute. We'll ask questions here for a few minutes before we wrap up because we're a small group still.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Okay. Hi, Sophie. So will you think about doing a book for Vetter or Cassian in the future? Please.
Um, Better is for those of you who don't know, that's I feel like I could say,
The brother.
yeah. So not everybody has read. Have you read the arc, Morgan, of A
Yeah,
Scar in the
Fallon
Bone?
let me borrow it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just trying to gauge. Okay, and I don't think it's very spoilery because I do believe it's in the. We've already put out the what do you call it? The blurb
Blurb.
is out for A Scar in the Bone, so it's no spoilery. Vetter is the name of the brother that you meet at the end of the book. So, yeah, there's gonna be more about Vetter in the mysterious book 3. There will be more of Vetter. I don't know. I still don't know about Cassian, which is so funny because, like, oh my God. See, maybe that's what I should pitch to my editor. Like a dark
Yes,
romance
please.
starring Cassian that's set today because Cassian was the love triangle of Firelight and he didn't get the girl, right? So he deserves it. He
He
deserves
so
the love of
deserves
his
it.
life. I
And
know.
other authors are begging you to do it. Come on, Jennifer Armentrout's been begging you for so long.
You know. Maybe that might be fun. Okay. See, Morgan, I had a total plan for what I was going to pitch to my editor. And now I'm distracted. This is how easily an author is distracted. Y'all say squirrel, and we're like, yeah, I'm going to write that. They're writing squirrel. I'm off.
This is how we get agents telling you that you're not allowed to meet with us anymore. So,
I know. I know. Stop doing those things. Stop going onto those, Facebook groups.
this literally happened with Lana Ferguson in an AMA yesterday, and everyone's like, "You're gonna do a book for this guy, right?" And she's like, "I guess it's probably happening now."
I know. That's how it can happen. I mean, I had a call on the revisions for the third book with my editor, and we talked about the next thing. And so we kind of came up with a loose idea, but now, thanks to Morgan, I'm rethinking that idea.
Terry?
Hi, Sophie.
Hi. Hi.
Some of your books are my comfort books, so just want to let you know.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
are you going to return to your historicals? I know that
I
you have
mean,
a series. Yeah.
I'd like to, even if it's just putting them up myself. I have a couple, you know, um, there are a couple characters in certain historicals that readers have clamored for. Jen from Fated Mates has like adopted the hashtag, I forget even how she worded it, like, happy, HEA for Eden, so Enid. So, I don't know. It's possible. For me, writing A Fire in the Sky was like my way still to kind of get to write a historical when they didn't want to buy one at the time. Um, or at least, it wasn't as, they weren't market hungry for it. So, and A Scar in the Bone still has that vibe, and this one I just finished. Not, and then we'll see you in the next couple weeks. So I'm out of contract, and I'm pitching the next one in the next couple weeks. So we'll see what that's going to be. But I mean, I love that y'all are still, you're here for the historicals. Be sure to be, the few of us still putting them out, right? Like Diana has one coming out, Joanna,
Mhm.
who else, just, do your usual, buy the book, be the voice for the book. And hopefully I feel like it's just going to take one to be like formatted differently, packaged differently, and then the floodgates for it will open, just getting it into those readers who've never read them.
Well, I think Alexandra Vasti, when she was on with us, was talking about how when she pushed hers to be both illustrated cover and trade, and that
Yeah.
seemed to make a difference when hers
Yeah.
were coming out.
And there's I loved the new cover that Shana Galen did too, the one that just came out. I thought it was really cute in a good way. Like, I mean, cute feels like minimizing, but no, I thought it was cute, like in a very good way. I don't hate the illustrated. Some people just have a hard time because we came up with the mass market, right? So I think but if you want the historical, like be willing to go wherever, you know, they're taking them. And again, I don't think it's a publishing decision. I do feel like it's a decision being made by the retailers. So publishing's just trying to accommodate that. Yeah.
Sophie, you married though historical with fantasy and romance so perfectly though that I tell
Yeah.
everyone when I'm recommending it that it's such a fresh take like on having a romantasy like with the historical elements. It just makes it so much more exciting.
Thank you so much. I hoped, like, I kind of had hoped like some of those romantic fantasy readers might have read it and then, oh, what else did she write? Then they see I write historicals, so they read the historicals, and then that like leads them to go into other historicals.
Yeah.
That's always the hope.
We talk a lot about how people that like romantasy would probably really like historicals, like
Yes.
just in general, right? Because
Absolutely.
they have a lot of the same vibes.
I definitely agree. I mean, so many of the romantasy have like historical vibes, and there's one that came out. There's a few that are even Regency set ones that I'm blanking out on the name of the one. She did a really popular series, hit the New York Times, and it was just like Regency meets like Fae and Shifters, and I was like, yeah, there it is. Like those old Colin Gleason. Remember, she wrote that like vampire Regency vampire series. Like that was did pretty well back then. It would do well again. She could reissue those right now. It's like Buffy meets Regency.
Susanna Allen has a couple that are historical with have like shifters in them, and they're honestly fantastic.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
about your NA stuff? Like I know you did Tease and Wild, which I loved Wild, you know that. But have you thought about
Yeah.
doing any more like that?
I did. I mean, at the time when I wrote that new adult, I mean, I could say it's a trilogy, but they're not really like sequels, right? They're just three sets of friends. When I wrote, Foreplay Tease and Wild, I loved them. They seemed to be really popular with readers, but it felt like it was on a tail end of New Adult, which is weird because New Adult never went away. They're just not calling it that anymore,
People
which
are
makes
starting to
it
pick it back up though and say
right.
new
I
adult
mean,
and stuff.
think about it. All that young 20s, some of the romanticies is that, some isn't. Like young 20s is still a very popular time period. And so anyway, when I was told no, just these three, Devil's Rock was my answer to those books because I
Yes.
wanted to keep writing sexy contemporary and maybe edge it up a little bit more. So Devil's Rock was my answer to that. I feel like I always have like a new thing I write in response to maybe a door closing for me. Like, oh,
Yes.
if the door's closing on this, I'm going to write this. I'm going to try, taking what I love over here and adapting it and twisting it into something else.
Which I think most of us love Devil Rock series. Hello.
I feel like people
Yes.
would read it if they like if I think new readers would right now who are reading what the dark romance
Right.
would
I think if that was
love Devil's Rock. I
I
mean,
think if
If it
that
was
I
put
was,
out in trade because it was mass
yes,
market before, I think it would, with new covers, it would
I
do
agree.
fantastic.
I've talked about that with my agent. I was like, if Devil's Rock came out now with different covers in trade, yeah, I think it would find a whole new audience.
especially with the title All Chained Up.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, right? I
the
know.
the covers didn't always work for them either. Like the
I
one that
know.
had like beachy vibes, I'm like, why is he like got surfboard shorts on and stuff? Like it does
He was
not
so
feel.
like, yes, he was so like kind of surfer,
Yeah.
surfer blonde tan. I was like, oh.
I think
Well,
it needs no
like
guys and maybe like some chains or something on the cover and just more mysterious vibes.
I was like, read the story. And the French covers were so dark, you
Ooh.
know, just Google those and pull those up. Those are like, they were black and white and they were
Mm.
like, yeah, they had like the torso, the muscle torso and the dark, but they were just really dark. You could tell. Um, and I was like, maybe the covers might have put off some readers because I really felt proud of the stories inside.
Oh, they were
But
so good.
I don't think at the time the covers put off readers. I think it's this.
it's now.
It's, I don't, they're so puritanical, these young people.
I know, I know. But
Well,
then they
and
read. I mean, but
Yes, I love
serious.
headless covers. I love the
Thank
headless
you.
covers.
so many people don't do mass market paperback though in the younger generation. A lot of people are like, these are my grandma's stories. No.
Yeah.
Well,
I
they're not
mean,
used to it.
Yeah.
give it some dark cover with like a dark background and some mystery flowers and just a font, and boom. You know,
Forest full and some snakes, and they're
that's
happy.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yep.
yes. Chains and snakes. I think you got it.
I know. I'm gonna have to mental note, guys. I'm gonna do this.
No,
I'm
Some
gonna do this.
seriously.
tattoos or something. Something that would
Well,
be in
it's
the tattoo.
interesting. So Gallery reissued my werewolf books. You know,
I
it's
know, and I love the covers.
I think,
Love.
and they have it. They did the first one, Marked by Moonlight. It was my werewolf one, and then when I was in the UK, oh my god, I got an email. The assistant to the editor over there emailed me, "Hey, could you send? We're gonna go ahead and repackage book two." And I was like, "You are?" Okay. I mean, they own those books. They did. They put them out.
They're
They can do
stunning.
all of them if they want. So I'm really interested. It'll be exciting to see that cover because the first cover was very cute. It was very kind of those illustrated vibes like the Cressley Cole covers, Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I love
Yes.
those. I love the darker kind of feeling illustrated covers. Those are fun. So I'm really excited to see my second werewolf book, what they do.
So my theory is that those, like the new Cressley covers and like Mark by Moonlight, the reason that they are kind of like that those are being put out is the younger generation also reads manga,
Manga
and
and graphic
I
novel.
feel like it attracts that same look. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like my feeling from like because my kids, my he's a kid, he's a young adult, but like his friends who read books, they like manga, but they like these type of books, like with crest, like with those type of covers.
I agree. I agree.
Well, everything's being reprinted too into new covers. Look at Karen Moonhan. Like hers have
Yeah.
gotten reprinted. So everybody's got new covers. Firelight got reprinted into adult. I mean,
Yeah.
how many covers is Sarah J. Maas gonna have?
Oh, I know. How many editions of books, right? It's
Yeah.
wild.
Well,
I mean,
okay, so
I feel
Terry and
like
I say more Devil's Rock, right,
Yes.
I
Terry?
might, it's really interesting that you said that too, because I've mentioned it before, but I may ask again. Like, wouldn't it be great if they reissued Devil's Rock with a different look? That would be
I
great.
think they could be New York Times bestsellers and blow up to a whole new generation with dark romance being so
Hear
popular right now.
Yeah.
hear me out. Gen 2 of the Devil's Rocks. Okay.
I agree. I agree, Terry. I'm there for it.
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, I don't want to, like, I pitched a really, like, kind of dark, Devil's Rock vibe kind of story in my call after we went over the revision notes for my book three. And I was like, what about this? And she was like, send me that pitch. Send me that pitch. So, you know, yeah. Sorry, it may not be like maybe I could do the dark romance, but it's, Cassian. Morgan would be like, yes, it's everything I want.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Tie me to a bed with Cassian. Hello.
Terry, you have
Yeah.
something else?
Okay, last
Yeah.
question. Okay, one thing, just like in Fire in the Sky too. I love that. Yeah, I think Afeni made to talk about you really just go for it. Like, yes,
Yeah.
if someone it's like this is crazy pants, and so
I
like
love the crazy.
I know. So what makes like is it just the situation, or are you like how do I make it crazier, or do you just have a bar that you're just trying to gauge yourself against?
I
Because
don't know. I thought about I mean, because that plot premise lived in me for so long. Like the public betting scene, I've wanted to do for so long. And so the situation lived in me, just like in writing various historicals. I knew I wanted to write like an aphrodisiac romance. I knew I wanted to write the wife that was auctioned off. Like, so, and so many other than the aphrodisiac, the wife on the auction block. I mean, that's straight out of history. I wrote the like author's note about that. Like the last recorded bride sale was like 1913 or something ridiculous. Like true life is just full of the unbelievable. Like it's there for us. So yeah, I think it's sort of the scenario, the situation. And um some of the readers of A Fire in the Sky were totally like, oh my God, I was like, my face was hot, like uncomfortable, like so uncomfortable, yet well, obviously what I'm going for is like the discomfort of that scene, but also it was very titillating too, right? Like, because these two are okay together, right? Like, that, it was consensual, but it was super uncomfortable. Um, but I know there were some new readers that probably didn't come from historical romance that were reading with that, and they were like, this is hella crazy. And I'm like, girl, you just need to go read historical romances because you'll read crazy all day long, I mean, we do. I mean, historical romance always has it, right? I mean, I remember an old like, I mean, Sabrina Jeffries, like what I mean, anyway, even in older contemporary romances, right? It's just, I mean, Susan Elizabeth Phillips. I mean, you can't like Nobody's Baby But Mine. I mean, Crazy Pants all day long.
Yes.
Best secret baby.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. She stole that. I mean, so again, uncomfortable. I don't know. I don't know. It's so funny because I guess now I'm a little more sensitive to writing certain scenarios, and maybe my first drafts I even hold back a little, and my editor's always there saying, no, make them more ruthless. It's okay. It's okay. And I got to remember where I come from, where my roots are in historicals.
Yeah.
As long as you're writing good people and the intention is good, and like we talk about these morally gray heroes, as long as what they are doing is for the right reason, and if they're doing something bad, it's to someone who totally deserves it, just go for it.
Sure. I mean, red flags are all go in a romance
Yep.
novel. They're not real life.
And in dark romance, it's crazy too, right? Like I'm like,
Yes.
why am I being careful? Because a lot of a lot of this stuff doesn't seem like it was carefully crafted. Like we're really going for the jugular a lot these
I
days.
just read one where they were having sex in a dead corpse. And I'm like,
There you go. I mean, it really speaks to, I think, the polarization of our society right now.
mhm.
Everybody you have readers who want the sweet, right? And then you have the readers who are like, I want it as dark and twisted as it can get. And it's fine. It's doing something for the reader.
Trisha, did
Supplying.
you have the audio question?
I
Oh,
did.
yeah,
It's
Trisha.
a little spoilery. I had looked last week and had not seen that the narrators had been announced. And I looked tonight and saw narrators, and one of the narrators is missing, which I don't
Oh.
know if that means that somebody is not in the story. And I don't
No
know how.
spoilers, Sophie.
Trisha, I love how you pay such close attention to the audio. Like you tip me off on stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, that's I listen to a lot of like fantasy kind of stuff, and I tend to prefer my fantasies in audio. I don't know if it's
I can
the
see why.
storytelling kind of thing I like
I see
better.
why.
I read them if they are not available in audio, but if I can get them in audio, I prefer them that way. So I've been waiting for the narrators on this because I'm like, if it's not the same narrators, I'm going to throw hands at someone.
Yeah, no, I
And
requested the
it's
same.
three of them are the same. One is missing.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
And it,
Evil
yeah,
laugh.
I love you,
that's
Soph.
I asked that question back there
Morgan's finished with Scar in the
before
Bone.
we
Someone
had.
else is 60% through. So, it did.
I have the arc. I just haven't read it yet.
So, I had multiple narrators in A Fire in the Sky, and maybe not every. Just because I will say this, just because someone I may have decided not to allow that character to narrate doesn't mean they are not in the book.
Okay.
But maybe
So
their
we don't
role,
get their
because their
POV, but
role,
they are
yeah,
there. Okay.
right,
Okay.
yeah. And it's funny. I will say so. And again, I'm revising book 3, which again will be a longer book for me, not for fantasy in general, but 100,000 words, is a long book for me. And it's one narrator. The one I'm working on right
And
now,
you
it's
said
the
it's a
one
different
narrator.
couples, so
It is a
Tamsin
different
and
couple.
Belle are mostly wrapped up at the end of Scar. I mean, there's still turmoil in Pantera,
Correct,
but as a
correct,
couple, they are solid.
correct.
Yeah,
Morgan's
will it
sitting there
go?
making a face, saying,
Will it go
Morgan's
a
making a
little
face to,
past that? Will it go a little past Scar in the Bone?
yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's so funny. I've been playing around with the timeline also of writing this third book because, again, it can be read independently. And I'm sort of like, well, do I want it to begin at this, what time do I want it to overlap a scar a little? Like, if here's the third book and here's a scar in the bone, like, it's me trying to decide where the third book comes in. It's sort of been like
Yeah.
this as I'm writing it. Like, right now, it's sort of like this. Does that
So
make
have
sense?
we met the characters?
No.
Okay.
Look, I'm giving away a lot. No. And it was so funny because at first I was like, yeah, you've met one of them. And I was like, no, you haven't. And then, no, yes, you have. It's been such a back and forth experience for me. But I'm very glad with my final decision. I mean, I better be. I'm almost done with the revision. It's due in 2 weeks. And but you'll have cameos, and things are happening in the world. So
I felt the second book was more emotional even than the first.
that means a lot. I mean, I don't, sequels are really hard. Sequels are the hardest book to write. The first book, it's all exciting, you're arriving to the party, you're so worked up, and then the sequel is coming and you have to finish everything you've started. And you're hoping it works for everybody. And I think readers come in with this expectation of whatever their experience was in book 1, they want something specific to happen in book 2, and it might happen or it might not. You just don't
You
know.
left us wanting more too from the world, for sure.
Good, thank you. And it's not that I don't know that there'll be a fourth, but it was like when we went and I had the call. The fact is, it's hard for a publisher to say, oh, here's the 3 books you wrote and only one's out, and
Yeah.
2 aren't even out yet. So is it fair to say, let's go ahead and pitch a 4th one when 2 haven't even released yet? So we don't really even know readers' reaction or response to book 2 and 3 yet because they're not out. And it's also kind of fine for me to kind of have a palate cleanse, do a new thing, and then maybe I'll still do another in the Fire in the Sky world. It's not off the table.
I just want to say the one thing about Fire in the Sky, for me, is I was lucky enough to have had an arc of that. And then, in our group, book club, whoever got it, I would yell at them to read it as soon as I read it because it reads so quickly. And you're even Donna can say she read it quickly. You get into it and it flows so well and I'm in my perimenopausal, I can't concentrate stage. And that was a book I could go right through.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Everyone is like, oh, it's so interesting though, readers picking up and being like, it's a really short fantasy. It is a short fantasy. But to me, I'm like, it's not a short novel, but it is a short fantasy. And I don't wax on for pages,
And we
about the world.
appreciate that.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes, we do. We like
We
tight. We
appreciate
like
that.
tight.
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Thanks.
reading The Starlit Air, which also gives me similar vibes to you. It's not too long. It's quick read,
We
very
just
good.
But she's also a
we talked
historical
about that
romance writer.
coming
Yeah. Oh, I
historical
love
romance
Amelie
writers, then
Howard.
writing romantasy. They know how to be more concise and how to build that world in 300 pages
Yes.
Yeah.
rather than having to spend 600 pages to get there. I mean, I read those 600-page books, so
Which is
and I'm
some
okay
though that
reading
are
those
writing
600-page books.
who are writing those big books and who should be learning how to do a little more concise They don't need to spread it out over
We
5 books. And
I don't need 50
we've
pages
discussed
on
that
what the
too.
desert looks like. I just
I think
don't.
we all know what one I'm talking
I don't.
about, but it's just been dragged a little too much.
It's hard. It's hard. I'm glad to hear that people enjoy the pacing of it
Yes.
a
Mhm.
lot.
And
Yes.
Sophie, the tour, when is it being announced? And are you coming to my state? Because you know I've been pushing for it.
Mhm.
Oregon's in Florida, everyone. See, I know more.
Yes.
Last year I was supposed to go to Florida and y'all had the storm.
It made me
What
so
was
sad.
what was the event called again? I forgot because it was going to be a bunch of
I don't
us.
remember. It was put on by Avon, and it was like a big romantic
Spice
event that they
Fest.
were doing.
That's it.
Yeah.
It was called Spice Fest, and there was like 8 of us. So it was
Yes.
disappointing that they didn't. Obviously, it didn't happen in Florida, and they didn't reschedule. So I'm hoping something like that happens again in the fall.
Just come
I
to me,
need you to
Soph.
come to
Just come.
Washington.
I
Come to
know.
me.
I
Are you
know.
coming to the New York metropolitan area?
I don't think so. I mean, and I think we've talked about just doing like, I'll do a couple things regionally and maybe 2 or 3 things out of state. That's what I've heard. Um, yeah, I don't know. I hadn't done, I mean, I went to New York when it was the Shelves in the City, and that was sort of before the book release. They just had me signing arcs. And, um, Carla, I'm in Texas, in the Texas area. I saw it. So Rare for me was like the first big event I've done since like I've a Polycon maybe 4 years ago now.
Yeah, you haven't been in a while.
I haven't been in a while, and Rare was the first big event that had that kind of a Polycon vibe, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was like, wow, I haven't done something like this in a really long time, and it was great. I see why people go back to Rare because it's like an excuse to go to an international city, and then
Did the new romantics end up reaching out to your
I have
person?
not heard of that. I haven't heard. If that doesn't mean they didn't, though,
Yeah.
So, but now that I'm settled and I'm back home, and I'll turn my attention to it. I'm doing an event with Allie Carter's book comes out
Yeah, I
this
saw
month.
that.
So I'm doing an event with her. She's coming here to Houston, so I'll be at Blue Willow with her. And I don't know, they may have me signing some arcs or something there because or at least a Fire in the Sky. I'll be signing there.
I want
Um,
an arc, Sophie, so
I
bad.
know. I don't. I know.
So the funniest thing is the Ally Carter book and Your Scar on the Bone. When I went to a Polycon and the Avon was there, that like everyone was asking for like Catabasis and Good Spirits, and the only two I'm putting on, I put those two on. I was like, please, like she said, put it into her thing, and on Monday she emailed me those. So I was like, though you two being together is like my dreams come true. I'm not
Yay.
in Texas though. I'm
I know.
unfortunately
I
not in
know.
Texas.
Well, she's in Oklahoma and she loves Blue Willow. She even included Blue Willow Bookshop like in her book, like wrote it like it was the book
Oh,
thing. So like she gave them it. So she loves Blue Willow Bookshop, so she'll come down for that. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I'd like to get to Florida. I'd like to go around. So we'll see. We'll see.
fingers crossed. You know
I
I
know.
love spending time with you, Soph, whenever I can.
And maybe, so I was at a camp in Connecticut. My son might be going to school up there. And if that happens, I'll be up in that area, much more frequently
New England loves
in
having
New
authors.
England, and because Diana Quincy's right there in Virginia.
I
Like,
would
so,
visit Donna then
yeah,
too.
yeah,
New England loves having authors.
yep. I would love to do it.
Seattle would love to have authors too, but nobody ever comes this way.
I know. Well, I've been to the Pacific Northwest. It just hasn't been a while. It's not been a while.
They've
But
had some smaller ones. It was a queer convention, but I went to a queer book con in May in
mhm.
Portland that was awesome. But
Yeah.
California
yeah, that
gets a
was my
bunch
first
of
big
signings.
that
Mhm.
was my first big con because they're usually too far away for me. But I was able to take the train down, which cost, fraction of what an airplane would cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No,
always
I mean,
California and New York that always get signings.
Yeah.
well, and I told Sarah McLean. Sarah McLean did this big tour, but she didn't really go. She didn't hit the South. She didn't hit the Midwest. I guess. Wait, she did go to Missouri, maybe. I don't know. But I said maybe we should do something in Florida. So we'll see. But eventually I make it all around, guys. Eventually. I've been
Yes.
everywhere y'all said I've been
At
at
some
least
We'll
point.
do a big
once.
after dinner party, Sophie, after. Okay.
I know. Okay.
Disney's right here.
Y'all know I'm a Disney, addict. Honestly, my grown daughter now can't stay away because I took her too many times as a child, so now she's ruined. And
We
she's
have Epics now too.
yeah. So
Everybody wants to try there.
yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. I just looked at the clock. Oh my
I
goodness.
know. Thanks for hanging out with me so
I
late, everybody.
know. And so
Hang
I
out with us.
Yeah,
I know.
thank you for hanging out with us. So I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us tonight. And thank you, Sophie. It's been a delight to spend the evening chatting with you and to getting to spend the month of July reading and discussing A Fire in the Sky on Monday nights with the group. So we have just a few quick announcements before we go this evening. We will be meeting next Monday, August 4th. We're going to be reading, if I can get it to come up, uh, Nine-Tailed by J.C. Lee. We're going to be discussing the first 16 chapters on the 4th. So mark your calendars now. JC is going to be joining us to chat about the book on August 18th. So not at the very end of the month, on the 18th. Our reading schedule and links for the book and events are going to be going up later this week, along with the recording of tonight's chat. So I just wanted to thank everyone and wish you all a great night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. Good
Thank you.
night.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye, Soph.